In the first half, we made a lot of mistakes, a lot of bad turnovers. We didn't come up on the three-point shooters twice, and they made them. The second half, we went with the five guys who play the best, most consistent defense, and it's the first game we've had the five guys at the end of the game. If we didn't have the five guys at the end of the game, we wouldn't have won, like all those games. But having those guys at the end gave us a chance to win the game. I think we shot 64% in the second half. We had better movement. We got better shots. And all five guys were tremendous. This is what Barama can do. He can do what he did today. And, it may not look like much, but it's 10 rebounds, 6 points, 3 steals. He can do that on a more consistent. And he missed his 3 free throws. He missed a layup. He got 1 block. So, he's very capable of doing that. And he makes us just different. Then the end of the game, we went with Marek, and, he was tremendous at the end of the game. Tremendous. He made some, I think, 4 or 5 plays in a row. He made his free throws. When he plays like this, we're a different team. He struggled to do anything, really. And we're a whole different team, offensively and defensively. We can't win when he's in foul trouble or Brahms in foul. We just can't win. Elijah made a couple plays right away. Then, Joe hit that 3. Buddy made a couple shots. When the ball goes in the basket, the game's a lot easier. First half, we had some pretty good shots. We missed. You got to make shots. When we make shots, we're better.
It especially seems like Joe came out with a certain amount of spark in that second half. He was part of that 7-0 run. Does he seem to have a little more, maybe, ability to kind of turn the corner, have that energy?
He's getting better. He's improving. He has that ability. First half he couldn't do it. Second half he did. And he's missing shots that I know he can make too. But it'll come. He's a freshman. We're asking an awful lot from him to do all that he has to do for us, and he's been really good. Really has had a great year. Everybody had a really good year.
Welcome to the Cuse Militia podcast with those two unapologetically biased, orange-blooded homers, Sean and Joe.
What's up, Cuse Nation? Thanks for tuning in to the Cuse Militia podcast with Sean and Joe. If you like it, please share it. The universal handle for the socials is @Cuse Militia. Go there, join the militia. We are the only Syracuse sports podcast centered around giving you, the fans, a voice. So welcome. Happy Monday. We're a day late. I did warn you that we're going to be a day late. Joe was at the game, and he was in the air yesterday for the evening time, which is when we normally record. So, all right. Well, let's do this.
Sorry about that.
Joe, it's your fault once again that we're a day late.
I'll take it.
It's fine. It's fine. This is, it's getting unacceptable though. But anyway, we got James going to come on a little bit to do some fan feedback and a couple other things. Joe will tell us all about the crowd was electric, and it must have been awesome to be there because it looked great on TV. So
it's because I was there, Sean.
Yeah, that's exactly why. Yep. The Orange took care of business in front of the second largest on-campus crowd so far this season. Behind, I guess, the number one crowd so far this year was the Duke game. So they beat Georgia Tech 79-72. And boy, oh boy, I thought that game was over at the half. And if you didn't, you're a better man than me. because that was dire looking. So anyway, we'll go over all that. We'll have James on to give his thoughts on that. Syracuse improves to 15-12, 8-8 in the ACC, and Syracuse will hit the road to face Pitt on Wednesday at 7:00. That game is on the ACC network. We'll give you our thoughts on that. This will be the second meeting between the two teams. So, it's in their home court though. So we'll have to dive into that a little bit. Now, before we do all these things, we want to talk about the good folks over at MyBookie. And as you know, regardless Whether you've been betting for years or you're just a first-time player, or if you got questions, MyBookie's patient customer service will answer any of the questions you have to get you started. Find out if it's right for you. If you're the kind of guy or gal who likes to bet on NHL, I mean, they have all the props, right, Joe? You can bet on The Bachelor. And we joke about this, but it's true. You
can't bet that a Zamboni driver is going to show up and actually play in a hockey game. You can't do that.
You can't do that because it's almost too easy. But we joke about The Bachelor and this and that, but they do those silly props all the time. So if you're the kind of guy or gal who likes to bet a little and win a lot, try the parlay, for instance. If you like a couple of the big favorites of this week, parlays are perfect because they let you bet on multiple games together for a bigger payout. So if you're going to bet this season, do the smart thing and go to mybookie.ag because no one gives you more ways to win. Just, don't sit on the sidelines. Get in the game with MyBookie.ag, and if you join right now, MyBookie will double your first deposit. Use the promo code CHAIR to activate that offer. That's promo code CHAIR, CHAIR, to activate that offer and double your cash up to $1,000. Visit MyBookie.ag today. You play, you win, you get paid. Thank you, MyBookie. All right, Joe.
Yes, sir.
Quickly, before I do the good, bad, and ugly, how was it? I'll let you go first today.
No, dude, it was awesome. There was a reason why I wanted to get back in there before the last game when there's going to do the dome change and they're going to do all the renovations and stuff like that. A lot of people were questioning on how many people were going to show up, but it was a good day, good weekend. A bunch of people showed up, and I mean they were loud. We sat up real high in the 300s because we tend to get a little wild, but we were all loud and. I know in our section, everything gets a little contagious when you start getting loud and when the team gets back into it. So, yeah, like you said, it was a rough beginning. But we came back, got it kind of close before half, and then at halftime, I think the team got back into it, crowd got back into it, and it was awesome, other than Moses Wright scoring 33 points.
Yeah, other than that, it was great. And it wasn't a very slow comeback, which is, it was nice to see. I mean, it was pretty. They responded well. So they did leave much to be desired, though. Heading into the locker room, down by 11 at the half, they shot just 7 of 26 from the field. They being Syracuse, while Moses Wright himself was 8 for 9 for the Yellow Jackets. JG3 came out and started the second half with a purpose, adding to a 7-0 run and another 7-0 run later. By the Orange, finish off with a Girard layup, giving Syracuse a 54-51 lead. With about, I think there was 8 minutes and 23 seconds left to play. After that, though, Syracuse never trailed again. The good, besides the win, obviously, that's good, and we needed that. How about Mark Dolezaj, Joe? 20 points, 5 rebounds, 12 for 12 from the line. He played a huge part in the aforementioned comeback. His offensive aggression played a huge role in getting some of those Georgia Tech guys in some foul trouble. That was huge. Towards the end of that game, being able to finish that game off too. You get taking some guys out there like Banks and Alvarado not being able to make plays late. Second, 21-9 on fast break points in favor of Syracuse. And third, the crowd. The crowd, man, it was awesome. I talked about that JG3 layup in transition there that gave the 3-point lead, and they never looked back after that. That crowd gave me chills. It was so loud, and I cranked my TV, to get the surround sound going. It was magnificent. So that's the good. The bad. Guerrier takes a step back after picking up 3 fouls early in the first half. I think he finished with 3 altogether. He finished with 3 points and 1 rebound in 16 minutes. It's going to happen, but I got to pick something. So that's the bad. The ugly. The Orange held Jose Alvarado at 8 points. That's great, but we all know how that usually plays out, Joe. And you mentioned it already, but it's the ugly. Moses Wright almost single-handedly beating the Orange with 33 points and 10 rebounds in 38 minutes. So, this guy averages like 13 points a game, 13 some change.
Yeah. Dude, it's one of those situations where some players they have better matchups against 2-3 zone. And I know that, I talked about it when we were talking about the preview that Moses Wright, he started to figure stuff out, especially in the second half of the first game. And that was the one guy that I was really worried about. I didn't think he was going to do that though. But yeah, he killed us there, and thank God it was only him, because anybody else if anyone else would have been on, then it would have been a long day for sure.
Oh, I know, and that's a great point, because you had even Banks wasn't great, and as we mentioned, Jose Alvarado, he comes out, he hits the first 3 points for Georgia Tech from behind the arc, and I'm like, all right, here we go. It's going to be a long day. And I mean, the whole first half, let's be honest, I mean, it was grim. It just did the turnovers. It was sloppy. They were just making just terrible mistakes. The defense was horrible, and you got to wonder, to be a fly on the wall in the locker room at half. I mean, Joe Girard came out possessed. Mark Dolezaj was just a madman in the second half. It was freaking amazing. It really was. And Sidibe, not a ton of points, and he did foul out in his 25 minutes, 6 points, but 10 rebounds, and he was doing some, and he made a couple mistakes early, but that, you heard Coach, I think I put it in the montage, talking about, this is what he can do, this is how he can affect opponents, and he did a good job. He did a really good job, Sidibe. So even though he fouled out, 25 minutes, just think if he was able to play for 35 minutes, Yeah.
Well, again, it worked out well for him. I'm glad that, it's the first time that I haven't really, sometimes I feel like when you watch the game on TV, it can kind of skew some things when it comes to the refs, right? Because you get to see the slow motion replay and you get to see the replay, right? Sure. And so from the 300s, the refs look great this game. So it's hard to say one way or another, but I know Georgia Tech plays.
Go ahead. Plays what?
Well, I know Georgia Tech plays tough defense, and we won the foul battle. We shot 36 free throws, got 28 of them from the line there, so that was a big part of this game. Yeah, well, the one that sticks out to me, there's a couple iffy ones, but the one that really sticks out as far as calls go was the one Sidibe fouled out on. It was supposedly an over the back. It was not an over the back, dude. He was grabbing that ball behind his own head. And he went straight up. It was a terrible call. So, that was one where we were sitting, we really couldn't see the angle that well. So that was tough. But I mean, based upon the reaction, I mean, the crowd was going to boo on everything negative, and they were going to go crazy on it. Yeah. I mean, that's just, it is what it is. It's just, that's why I like going to those games. I've always loved going to those games.
That's the home crowd advantage. That's what they're supposed to do.
Well, it's the home. Yeah, exactly. And at the same time, like I always say, when the crowd is loud and you put that much effort into it as a fan base and you get the W, it's, you feel like you're part of that win. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things that I've always kind of looked at as a fan, and you don't want to take credit because obviously you really didn't go out there and make any baskets, right? But it was loud.
I think you can ask the players, man, and they'll tell you. I think someone actually made a comment about the fans and how they affected the game. Dude, that gives it. I sat at home and it gave me chills a couple times. Like I was freaking. It affected me. I'm sitting on a couch 500 miles away.
I was with 20 friends at the top of the 300 level, and we were in rare form, that's for sure. But we were loud.
Well, you weren't.
I said, what's that?
I said, well, you weren't in rare form. You were in form.
Oh, no. We were in rare form. So, yeah, we were loud. I mean, at first there was people looking back at us kind of like we were crazy. But by the end of the game, everybody was in it with us in our section. And I apologize for anyone in that section who didn't want to be part of that. But
well, you sent me a picture. You were high enough up to where anybody up there shouldn't be. They should be, more upset of where they're sitting than when it was behind them.
Well, yeah, there's a reason that we sit that high away from everybody.
I'm just playing, dude. I'm just playing. All right. Well, look, let's bring James on, shall we?
Sure.
It's time to hear from you, the loudmouths from the Loud House.
All right, it's time for some fan feedback. We have brought a guest with us this time, our good buddy James. He is the Syracuse Orange basketball beat writer for Noon's Magician and 315 legend, though he denies it, but it's true. James, welcome.
How many times do I got to tell you, man? You can't introduce me as 315 Legend. It's Cuse Militia, top fan on Facebook.
Okay, good enough. Good enough.
You can't misrepresent me like that.
Okay, I'm sorry. We're going to get into fan feedback, but first, James, I got to get your thoughts on the Georgia Tech game. Were you in the same boat with me going, we're done. We're toast after the first half?
I thought it was over. At halftime, I thought it was over. Syracuse didn't really show any signs of life. Everybody's struggling. Moses Wright was just eating the zone alive. I think he had 17 at the half. There was really nothing we saw in that first half that would suggest that Syracuse would have the second half that they did. But when they came out and they went on that 7-0 run, I think Gerard hit the three, and then he banked in a kind of a floater, and then Elijah hit a shot. I was like, okay, like maybe this is going to be a game. And they played well. I mean, they played well down the stretch. Marek really got going. 12 of 12 from the free throw line, Marek was. I thought he was huge. Barama, played pretty well, maybe one of his better games of the season. And, yeah, I thought everybody played pretty well outside of Quincy. And, they looked good in the second half.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe was there. He said the crowd is electric. Obviously probably more electric while you were there. But
of course.
Did it come through the TV like it did for me, James, with how awesome that crowd was during that game?
I don't know. I mean, what was the crowd size? Did we get an official number on it?
26,662 or something like that.
When they did like the zoom out, like the aerial shot of the dome from the inside, it didn't look like 26,000 because there were a lot of empty seats on both of the end lines in the upper level. So I think they do what they do is like tickets sold. I don't think they actually do like how many people come to the game.
Yeah, not turnstile numbers is what you're saying.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it could be. They always do that.
So I don't know. I mean, the crowd for that game, the crowd really didn't have much of a reason to come out other than it's a Saturday game and Syracuse is playing. So I thought for the crowd that did come out, pretty impressive given that there's not much left to play for. It seemed like the crowd that was there was pretty loud, especially in the second half when they started coming back. So yeah, no, I thought good on the Syracuse fans for getting out there because there's not really much left to play for. It looks like an NIT year, and the Syracuse faithful is still out there and cheering. So good on Syracuse fans.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, we are going to do this. Is your first time doing fan feedback with us? Have you ever done this?
The first time with fan feedback, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I've got it narrowed down to a few. Joe, did you pick anything from Facebook or what?
Nope.
No, you didn't.
Come on,
Good job,
Joe.
Man. Joe's been off all day, ain't done nothing. All right.
Dude.
So,
I did a brake job today. Get off my back.
You did? Oh, you're still working on that 1980 Impala?
No. Somebody else's.
Oh, okay.
My father's rear brakes.
Okay. All right. Good job. All right. Look, I'll do everything. I'll read these too. At Tony Staffieri on Twitter. James, this is going to come to you first. Take the win, but this is the worst zone defense in 24 years. On the bright side, imagine how bad it would be if Jim Boeheim hadn't been coaching it for the past 24 years. James.
Am I buying, selling, or holding, or what's the deal? How does it work?
No, just give your thoughts. No pressure.
Oh, okay. All right, I got you. Yeah, it's definitely the worst zone defense in the past 24 years because it's the worst in the Ken Pom era. Syracuse ranks 133rd actually in the country currently in Ken Pom defensive efficiency. So it's not a good defensive team. We know that. That's been the issue all year with this team. On the news pod the other day, I said, even if this is a mediocre year, Syracuse on the defensive side of the ball, it is. Even if it's a mediocre year, Syracuse probably makes the tournament. But the zone's been the problem all year. I think the stats are there to back that up. It's certainly the worst in the Ken Pom era, going back to 2002.
That's when he started, 2002?
2002, yep.
Okay,
yep.
All right. Joe, anything to add to that?
It's around when the interweb started. Yeah, no, it's exactly right. If we have just a mediocre defense compared to even last year, the year before, you're talking probably all those close games we win, and it's a completely different season. And really the only reason that we got this game was because of just out-rebounded them, and we made our free throws, got to the line. I mean, that was the main thing. You look at the shooting percentage, Georgia Tech had a higher shooting percentage from three-point and from the field altogether than we did. So, that was really just the game. We stepped up and got the rebounds and hit the free throws. That's why that happened. That's it.
Yeah, and you can go back to some of those close losses that we have. I think most of them, maybe except for Virginia, came down to getting stops. I mean, Virginia obviously could not score, but
how many single-digit games did we have? We shoot in the 60 percentages, and we're losing rebounds by double digits.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's going to make up a couple points here and there. So,
yep. At Mahirio_10 on Twitter, 52 points in the second half is no joke. Georgia Tech plays a tough zone, and that was evident in their win against Louisville. Hopefully these guys can build off of this. Always happy to see them happy, hitting shots and playing free one game at a time. So Mahir, he has hope, Joe. What do you think? He's got hope. One game at a time, like we always say, Joe.
Hey, I still have hope, too. James commented a little earlier.
Yeah,
kind
James
of made me sad. I'm not going to lie to you.
Am I the
he made me feel like my flight all the way to Syracuse and going to the game was for nothing, but no.
James, you hear that?
This again, there's always hope, and just you want to play better, right? Like he said, 52 points and a half. I don't think any team wants to see that. And we can go back to the Virginia game where we scored 20 points in an overtime.
Yeah, in 5 minutes. Yeah.
This team can go off and do these things that it doesn't really matter how good the defense is. So we get these glimpses of like what could have been, and then we get brought down to earth more times than not in this season. So,
James, you gonna double?
Is it too soon to get into all the net and the rankings and all that, or should I skip over that for now?
We'll get into it. You can do it.
Right.
You can do it. It doesn't matter when you do it. Actually, go ahead.
All right. Well, I would just say we'll go into like the quad 1 and quad 2 and all that later. Okay. There's really not much opportunity left for a good game on the regular season schedule. So, I mean, Syracuse could get 2 quad 2 wins at Pitt and at Miami, but I don't know if that necessarily moves the needle as far as the NCAA tournament goes. I mean, I think it's going to take – they're going to have to win these next 4 games, and maybe if they get to the ACC like the tournament title game, that would allow them to get a couple big wins. So maybe that gets them over. But, I think the safest bet is, winning the ACC tournament at this point. And I don't know that we've seen a lot out of Syracuse that would prove that they could go out and do that. So I think it's an NIT year, but, hey, you never know. I mean, you always have the hope of winning the tournament.
Yeah, I would tend to. I think I've kind of been on that bandwagon all year, but it's fun to still keep the hope alive. There's been headlines where the next 5 games are meaningless, and I've heard a lot of that, not just on from journalists and bloggers and things, but just people in general. And like Joe hit on it last show, no way are these 5 games meaningless. So first of all, you play to win every game. It doesn't freaking matter. And just because you think you might have to win the ACC tournament to get into the big dance. Obviously these guys aren't going to come out and just roll over. I think these next 4 games are winnable, right? I mean, not easy though. None of them are easy, but winnable. So,
we talked about that last podcast, right? We brought up that same scenario as far as if you get to that title game and maybe play Duke or Louisville, that most likely means that you beat a Florida State or somebody like that, in which we would get that signature win. We would get to 20, 21 wins, something like that. So it would be plausible. But again, what James has pretty much been saying all year is it's all about the ACC tournament. And
I know. He just won't shut up about it. I know. So
if you're another team, though, you don't want to play I think if you're any team in the ACC tournament, you don't want to play Notre Dame. You don't want to play North Carolina, even though they've been bad, and you don't want to play Syracuse.
I totally agree with you on North Carolina, man, because that one worries me. It's at the Dome, but and we'll get into it. But they're playing better. They've lost some close ones. At ZW Rodburn, let's see on Twitter. Different team in the second half, played with more energy on both ends. This is the way this team was playing when they were winning. Felt like it took time to shake off the Louisville fog. Brahma played maybe his best game of the year. Mark was huge. That's what it's going to take. And coach in the post-game press conference has said, they're not going to win with Mark. And, Sidibe did eventually follow out, but he still had a really good, solid game. And Mark was a freaking madman. I mentioned to Joe earlier. He was awesome. He played a huge role in getting some of those guys at the end of the game in foul trouble. And that's what it's going to take to win. Mark has to have – he's a key player, man. He has to have a good game to win, right?
I think no question, he's the biggest key. You can go back to the Clemson game, and that's really when the season started to go the wrong way for Syracuse.
Yep.
And if he's in that game, if he doesn't foul out, if he's in the game the final 4 minutes, they win that game. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that they win that game.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you don't go into Duke and you're not pressing as much. You've won 6 straight, so you never know what could happen there. And then the talk after Duke was, okay, they're on the wrong side of the bubble. They got a lot of work to do. I think that entire conversation changes. And I don't know what Syracuse's record is when Dolezaj fouls out, but they've lost more games than they've won when he does foul out. So he's the biggest key. And as you saw, he got out. He got 20 points and went 12 of 12 from the line. He's the biggest X factor on the team, in my opinion.
I don't remember him shooting this well from the line last year. Am I right? Wasn't he?
No.
He wasn't shooting this well from the line earlier in the year. He was struggling earlier in the year.
Yeah. But
Well, he had that off-season hand injury, right? So.
Yep.
Oh, right. That's true.
That really held him back, not only from the line, but just shooting in general this whole year, I think. Because he was shooting the ball better last year, from that 15-foot range, even from the three-point line. He was a decent shooter from the three-point line. So.
But the difference with Mark this year, I think, is that even in the games where he's struggled, I don't feel like his confidence totally left him, especially since not tournament play, but conference play has started. You saw a lot of that, like at the beginning of the year, maybe even, but definitely last year when he wasn't hot, he was not. He wasn't doing anything, right? So it's good to see that he's got the green light, and I think that has a lot to do with being able to have some confidence.
Well, we had three or four scores last year too, or something like that, as far as that were ahead of him. And this year you're talking about a sophomore and Buddy and a freshman with Joe, who they play certain guards in certain matchups. They're going to struggle, and it is what it is. When you're young and you're playing against ACC. Opponents like that. I mean, just look at the Georgia Tech guards. You look at the Pittsburgh guards that were playing coming up. Those guys, they're hard-nosed defense. So it's not easy to score against those guys. So Buddy and Joe, they're going to have their struggles. That's what we talked about earlier in the year, where really it was Mark and Elijah that kind of had to come out and do kind of what they did Saturday on a nightly basis for us to try to possibly get where we want to be.
Right. So we're going to do a couple more. We got some Facebook ones. Lori, top fan on Facebook. Thanks, Lori. That's how we do it. That's how James does it.
That's how I want to be introduced, right there. Top fan.
All right. It's always great to see them win and gain experience, but this season has been a tough one. I worry about next year without Elijah. We have no new bigs coming, and it would be nice to see one that had some meat on his bones. But, fat chance. Yeah. There's seems to be none of that anytime soon. But what do you think, Joe, about Elijah leaving? Obviously, we're going to hear more and more about that. He's NBA material, and he's probably gone, right? You're just going to crush everybody's hopes, right?
Yep, pretty much. I mean, that's just. I mean, I'm sorry. I just hate to say it. Like, I mean, when you get a 4-year, because he transferred from East Carolina, he's going to be graduating, he's going to have his degree. It's going to get to a point where what else does he really have? Like, tie his battle. Right. He could have came back this year. What else did he really have to prove? At this point, you're just wasting years at a chance to make a ridiculous amount of money playing a game. And that's what I always allude to when we talk about this, Sean, is that you have a small window to make a ridiculous amount of money to play a children's game,
right? For
all intents and purposes. And sometimes you have to maximize that. When you get to a point where you have your degree, you're really not going to get that much better, and you're already you're in the draft boards. I don't know what you're waiting for.
Right.
Sorry, Syracuse fans.
Money. Yeah, sorry, Syracuse fans, but I think everybody that listens to this show already knows. James, what does this team look like, you think, next year? Since Elijah's pretty much an automatic to be gone.
I mean, do you agree with me, James?
I do. I mean, I think unless he really loves Syracuse and wants to come back and wants to get to the NCAA tournament to see, like, that would be the only reason for him to come back. But even there's more thought out there now. It's like, it's just better to begin your professional career as soon as possible and get paid. He's been in school 4 years. He's probably going to graduate. You think about, if your career is 10 years of playing basketball, why would you sacrifice another year of pay? That's 10% of your career earnings that you could be going out and making money. So, I mean, I would lean that way. I would lean toward him leaving. As far as what the team looks like next year, I mean, theoretically, you could get everybody back outside of Elijah. We'll see what happens with Jalen Carey. I would lean towards him transferring. I don't know that for sure, but I would lean that way. We'll see what happens with getting Robert Braswell back. But yeah, you get everybody back, another year under everybody's belt. The freshmen grew up this year. Quincy, Joe, they had years that they could build off of. I think Jesse could improve a lot. There's a chance that he could play a lot of minutes next year at center for Syracuse. He's just got to put on a little bit of weight. Barama will be back and hopefully improved and not fouling so much. Presumably you get Marek back. So, and you add, another year of Buddy Boeheim under his belt, hopefully to improve a little bit defensively and a little bit more off the dribble. And, you're looking at a decent team. We'll see what the rest of the ACC brings back. It's possible that, a lot of other ACC teams could bring back a lot of their guys. But, yeah, I mean, I think Syracuse could be a pretty decent team next year if they bring everybody back and, 2 new recruits in the fold as well.
Yeah, well, especially Quincy's going to be – I think Quincy's going to be amazing next year. I mean, it's taken a long time, but he's come far. He had a bad game against Georgia Tech, and, I mean, that's going to happen. But, I mean, we've seen what he can do. And, like I mentioned, he's not going to get there with the minutes he's playing because he's just been in so much foul trouble. He played 16 minutes against Georgia Tech.
Yeah, 4 fouls, right?
Yeah.
Well, imagine what he does do next year if Elijah does go. So not only does he move to starter, but Syracuse isn't running anything for him right now. Like he's not an offensive option. Like everything that Quincy gets is off an offensive rebound or a cut to the rim and somebody's feeding him or off a screen and roll. So if he actually does become more involved in the offense and the way that he does rebound the ball, I think he's a better offensive rebounder than a defensive rebounder at this point. But he could go out and score. He could get a double-double every night next year. I don't think that's really even a question. I think he could do that every night.
Yeah, I think you're right. He's done it. I mean, do you know how many he has this year so far?
Oh man,
it's been a bunch.
Why put me on the spot like that?
No, come on, bro.
Come on,
unbelievable.
315 legend.
You got like 5. Well,
probably no fan knows that.
Out. If he wasn't in foul trouble, how many double doubles would he have?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a better question. Hey, on top of that too, we always have that extra. We got that extra bullet in the gun that's getting redshirted too. I haven't seen anything about John Boljak, but he's more physically. I mean, he's already bigger than the 2 centers that play as it is. So we'll have an extra guy too.
Braswell.
Oh, I'm saying, well, Braswell, yeah, I know that he's going to be coming back and he's going to be on the sides, but they were talking about having a center and stuff like that and not having like meat on their bones and being a muscular center. And John Boljak already is, I think, at 220 or something, and he's redshirt. I just don't know where he is, talented wise, but hey, you never know.
Yeah. We're going to cut fan feedback off right here because we're going to play Fake News or Not. I got some clips, and I'm sorry, I did have some other good ones, but I think we hit all the big stuff. I want to thank everybody who went there and left your comments. Go there after the game. I asked for your thoughts on Facebook and Twitter. Go there. Leave your thoughts. We talk about them here. So, anyways, I don't want to take up too much of James's time. He's being very generous.
Dude, I got all night. What are you talking about?
The dude jogged like 10 blocks to get here. So, with his ice cream. So, it was...
It's acai bowl, man. It's an acai...
Oh, okay. I thought you were eating ice cream.
No. Either way. Ice cream for dinner would be great.
Seriously.
James is always eating dinner.
I know. He just said he was coming back from the gym, and then he said, that's the way to do it. Post workout with an ice cream dinner. Come on, Sean.
I gotta get my protein in. Ice cream.
hey, it's the one food group, dairy, right?
Yeah. Well, we know what he had for dinner.
All right, so this is how we do this. Fake news or not? I'm going to play an audio clip. If no one heard the whole presser from the Louisville game with Jim Boeheim, you missed some good stuff. He said some interesting things, and of course, he's always I don't want to say it was controversial, but he's punching back. Okay, so he was punching back a little bit, and I got 2 of them. This is the first one here. We're going to listen to it. James, I'm going to go to you, and you tell me, is it fake news or not? Here we go.
Somebody also wrote that we're tired at the end of the games. We're not tired. These guys are not tired. The only guys that's a little tired is Quincy because he hasn't played as many minutes. But the guys that have been playing all year are not tired. Gillespie and Bay from Villanova play 40 minutes every night, hard as Did they ever ask them about, are they tired? If you can't play 40 minutes in college basketball, then you're not in shape and you're not a good player. You get a 2.5 minute rest every 4 minutes. The whole game's changed. You can play as long as you want. And some people actually think, well, if he rests 2 minutes, that's going to make a difference. Are you kidding me? So 2 minutes, you sit Elijah down for 2 minutes. That's going to make a difference. He's going to be stronger because of that? No, that is myth.
James. Isn't he brilliant? It's a thing of beauty. I do love it. What do you think, James? Fake news or not?
Nope. Nobody's tired except Quincy, the guy that's my dog. Nobody, but Quincy's kind of tired out there. He looks a little bit gassed. Need to get him a blow. No, I mean, all jokes aside, I mean, I buy it. I think he's got a point. And, you know, if you're a D1 college, I'm not going to say these guys aren't tired at all. Like, you know, you play a long game, like you're definitely a little bit tired. But if you're a player out there, like you're not necessarily thinking about that. Like you could be a little bit tired, but you can't play tired, if that makes sense. And these guys are playing hard. You know what I mean? They're playing through it. So to some level, everybody's a little bit tired, but you do get that break. You know, every 4 minutes there's a media timeout. You get the half in between. And, you know, not for nothing. I mean, I think Boeheim in the past has said something along the lines of like, I'd rather have my one guy, my best guy at 70% than my best guy off the bench at, you know, 90%, 100%. So I think you would take that. But, you know, I mean, at the end of they don't look gassed out there. It's not that Syracuse is tired. It's just they haven't been as good this year. And I think they've more or less they've been what they could be this year. They've played, you know, at times above their ceiling. And I just think, you know, the reason they're losing games isn't necessarily because they're tired.
All right, Joe. He's saying that's real news. They're not tired.
I'm right there with him. Sorry, that's a lot of time, man. That's a lot of. I mean, you have all those timeouts. You have your own timeouts.
Yeah.
This past game, they shot 62 free throws. I mean, come on. You have time
Stoppage.
in between all this. Right. You have all of that, right? So, again, I think he was alluding to Quincy playing like the full game against NC State when Elijah got hurt and he had to play like 37 minutes or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Which is still, I mean, it's funny one way or another
It's
because,
funny.
yeah. But, yeah, I think he gave an example of like the only reason why anybody the last couple games would have been tired. But I think a lot of it when it comes to fans and stuff, sometimes it just comes down to effort. You know, you get those loose balls, you get the defensive effort, the rebounds. And when those things don't go your way, then it doesn't look like you're trying as hard as the other team. Therefore, they're tired, right? You need to find an excuse other than the fact that the other team just might be in a better position or just might be a better team overall.
Or you're just not playing good defense and you're not getting the stops that you need and it looks lazy. But yeah, with the asterisk, I'm saying not fake news. With the asterisk.
With the asterisk.
Being Quincy.
What's the asterisk?
Being Quincy, you know, well, the disclaimer there on Quincy. So,
The Astros asterisk.
So, all right, next one, same press conference, next one. And I thought of James when I heard this immediately.
It's interesting. I love this. I don't know where this guy, he's making a lot of money, Ken Pom. But when you start putting in print, they scored 25% against the zone against Buddy and 25% against this guy. I'm telling you right now, no one in this room, nobody that's doing Ken Pom knows who's at fault when somebody scores on us. No one knows. Not one person. Because it's how we're playing the zone at that time. We may have the center up, so if it gets down there, it's not the center's fault if they score inside. It's the forwards. If we have the center back and they score down there, it's the center's fault. If they score in the corner, it could be the forward, it could be the guard, it could be the center. There's no way to pinpoint who's at fault in our defense. Even when I look at it, it's hard sometimes because there's certain movements and certain plays and certain situations that there's really not any fault. It's just they got a shot that we couldn't defend. That happens. In any defense, but especially in zone.
All right, Joe. Fake news or not?
God. This one is tough.
This one is tough.
It is tough.
Now you can break it down. You can get specific with it if you want,
Well, I mean,
because
I'm
there
just
are
saying,
parts.
it's obvious. There's
Yeah.
obvious plays when you can sit down and you can say, okay, that was this person's fault, right? Obviously, the defense, the zone, it changes depending on who our opponent is, what our opponent's doing, if they're making shots, who's making shots. All that goes into effect. So yes, in a way, I can agree with him in the fact that it's hard for somebody to pinpoint and sit down throughout a whole year. Oh, well, 25% of shots or points are scored against Buddy Boeheim. Things like that. That's tough. But to sit there and say that you never know, I don't know. I don't know. I can't call it.
James.
I can't call it.
Dude, that's fake news. Ken Palm's not making that much money. It's only like $20 for a subscription. It's not that much. No, I mean, I do buy it to some degree. First of all, he's talking about synergy. He confuses Ken Palm with synergy, and he and Matt Park. I don't know if you listened to the radio show last Thursday. They kind of talked about it and kind of cleared the air on that. So it's not Ken Palm. Like it's synergy, and I don't know if you saw Ken Palm's tweet, but he had a pretty good sense of humor over the whole thing.
Yeah, I saw that.
Good on Ken Palm for that. But no, I think he does have a point. In you can't necessarily pinpoint who is always at fault within a zone. So in other words, like if a player takes a three from the wing, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's always the guard. It could be a rotation. It could be, the forward was supposed to come up and he didn't get there in time, and it was on the forward, but it looked like it was the guard. Or, for if a player gets it in the high post, if the center comes up and guards, that high post because that guy's a shooter, and they dump it down for a layup or a dunk, then that's on the forward, but they might give it to the center for giving up that basket. So it's really hard. It's a really hard thing with zone. I don't necessarily know how they define that. I don't know how they say who's at fault, but I do agree with them in the sense that you can't necessarily pinpoint who is responsible and who's in what percentile defensively when you play a zone.
All right. Yeah. I mean,
but
honestly,
Ken Palm's not making that much money. Come on.
I did not know that was corrected, by the way. Otherwise, I would have said it.
I don't know any kindergartner that could tell you either.
I know. I could have put the whole thing in there. I just did not know where to stop. So I didn't want to make it too long, but he does make a comment about any kindergartner couldn't get in there, and
no, I mean, and the other thing he's got to put into effect too, right? Maybe because he's a little bit older and newer to this, but not newer, but you know what I mean. But it's all about clicks now, right?
Yeah.
Synergy, this, and that. Do you really think they sit down and watch the Syracuse zone to know about exactly what James just talked about, and we know how they move, rotate? No, absolutely not. It's all about the clicks. What am I going to do? I wonder what Jim Boeheim would do if I blamed his son for 25% of this.
Yeah, right.
Click. He's you're being trolled, coach. You're being trolled.
Yeah.
I think they must just I don't think they really get into the weeds of it. They must just see where a shot was made from and then just assign that to a player. I don't think they're getting into the minutia like that.
Yeah, because otherwise it would take forever. I mean, you'd spend way too much time on it. So, anyways,
impossible.
I thought those were fun. That was a great press conference. Probably my second favorite behind him berating Mike Waters a couple ago. So, anyway, they're always they're always
at each other's.
They're always they are. He had more comments for Mike Waters during this one too. But anyway,
I was wondering why he didn't play that stuff.
Well, there wasn't anything really there about if Coach said something to the effect of he didn't.
No, not that. I'm saying the post game when you usually do the coaches.
Oh yeah, because I was saving.
You
it for
didn't
this.
play any of that. So
no,
I'm sitting here what in the?
Yeah, I was saving it for this. So anyway, anyway, that's it for that. James, I want to get your thoughts on the remainder of the season. Give us the quad records as of now, if you will. And just let us know what you think. I think we kind of know where you're going with it, but I would really like to get your thoughts on the UNC game. I feel like that's probably going to be the tougher of the four remaining. What do you got?
Yep. All right. So, and just for the record, we're recording as of Monday night, if people don't know. So this is as of Monday night.
Yep.
Subject to change. But Syracuse is currently 66 in the net. Records by quadrant. I'll get into that in a sec. But as we know, 15 and 12 overall. I'll give you The home is, at the Dome 11-6, on the road 4-4, 0-2 on neutrals. Preseason NIT, you can thank for that. Quad 1, Syracuse is 2-7. Ouch. Quad 2, 2-4. Quad 3, 5-1, and Quad 4, 6-0. The Quad 3 loss is Virginia Tech, by the way, just for color. And yeah, so 4 games left. The last two at Pitt. Well, I shouldn't say the last two, but the first is at Pitt, and the last game is at Miami. Those will be Quad 2 games. And then sandwiched in between, you get North Carolina at home, and then you're on the road at BC. Those will both be Quad 3 games. So a pair of Quad 2 games and a pair of Quad 3 games remain. Nothing really, not enough meat on the bones there, in my opinion, for Syracuse to get an at-large berth or be in consideration. So if they are going to make the NCAA tournament one way or another, they're going to have to do that in the ACC tournament. As I said before, I think, maybe you can get an at-large berth if you make the title game, because that would mean you would have beaten a good team or two to get there, and maybe, a marquee win in that process. But otherwise, you're looking at, winning out or whatever happens, regardless, the rest of the way, you're going to have to win the ACC tournament and get the automatic bid. As far as the North Carolina game, yeah, man, I think that's a really tricky matchup just because they're so much better than their record. Obviously, North Carolina lost Cole Anthony for the middle of the season, and he got off to a really great start before he got hurt, and they've been hampered with injuries. The two big men that they have, Garrison Brooks down low and Armando Bacot. I mean, we know that's been the story with Syracuse all year, right? The bigs and, getting into foul trouble and not getting enough out of the center position. So that could, spell a lot of trouble for Syracuse down there. And then, Cole Anthony up top as well. Obviously, he can shoot it, he can pass it, he can pretty much do it all. Going to go to the NBA draft. So fun anecdote, actually. He's actually kind of boys with Jalen Carey. They're
really?
Both from New York City, and they kind of grew up playing ball together. I don't think a lot of people know that, though, but when I did the Jalen Carey story over the summer, his dad was telling me how, he grew up with Cole and hanging around with Cole, and they played on the same AAU team for a little bit, too. So fun little anecdote there.
Oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah. And by the way, I can't help, but he's one of those guys, to be honest with you, even I like him. And I can't stand UNC, he's one of those players to me. Is like, I think he's a class act. I think he's a good kid. He's not a dirty player, and he's talented, and he's not a jerk about it. You know what I'm saying? So I like him.
Would you be saying that if they were 20-4?
I would, bro. I'm not. UNC and Duke are my most hated in the ACC. So, but yeah, I think he's a class act, man. I call it like I see it. I think I'm fair there. All right, what's up?
Would you be saying that if you wore a Duke jersey?
But it's yes. Because I've said
yes.
Because I said the same thing about Zion. I think Zion's I watched an interview with Zion, and I'm like, oh man, he seems like a cool guy. Yeah. Like he's kind of a humble guy. They're both kind of humble. You know what I mean? Yep. And that's what I'm attracted to, and especially in athletes. If they're humble and they're talented, like a Zion, like a Cole Anthony, I mean, you can't help but like him, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not Grayson Allen. You know what I'm saying?
One of the years that I wish we would have played them a little bit earlier in the ACC season than now. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Especially like what James said with Cole Anthony getting hurt, and then with some of the buzzer beater losses that they've had recently. Just, you're looking at a team that is way better than their record.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not going to sit here and say I feel bad for the fans. I work with plenty, so
yeah.
They've had their seasons, but that's one of the things that, and we talked about it, that game with those big men, I've been worried all year. And then with Cole Anthony coming back. So, and then I want to also touch on that Virginia Tech. Wasn't that a quad 1 loss?
It was a quad 1 loss at first and a quad 1 win.
And that's where Virginia Tech has fallen, huh?
Yeah.
I knew there was a time when we were talking about that might have been our best win at Virginia Tech.
Yeah. Now it's UVA, right?
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yep. All right, James, I want to thank you, buddy. You're awesome. James Zuba, you can find him at James Zuba. SZUBA on Twitter. And, go to Noon's Magician. He's all over Noon's Magician, his latest ACC Hoop rankings. You can find that every week, right? You put that out every Monday, right?
Every Monday, go through the full conference slate. A lot of jokes and garbage mixed in there.
Yep. I saw something about it. I saw something about a Johnson in there somewhere.
Well, it wasn't me. I didn't write it initially. It was the NC State student newspaper. They wrote that headline. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It was from their paper. From NC State beating Duke. Yeah. So, anyways, go check him out there. Check him out on Twitter. James, thanks. Look, Cuse Militia, top fan on Facebook. James Zuba, come back. We want to have you on to preview the ACC tournament. How about that?
All right, I'm in.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, I'm always down to come on. Always appreciate you guys having me on. It's a fun time. I always enjoy it. And, I listen to every pod that you guys put out too. So I'll come on whenever. ACC tournament would be good. We could get a lot of Greensboro jokes in there, and it'll be a good time. So
All right, buddy. Sounds good. We'll talk to you later.
All right, be good, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right,
Yep.
bye.
Later. All right, Joe. Syracuse will enter hostile territory Wednesday to face the Panthers. The all-time series sits at 72-45 in favor of Syracuse. This will be the second meeting, as I mentioned before, between these two teams. This year, as you can remember, Cuse took the earlier game this year, 69-61 in the Dome. Buddy Boeheim with a game-high 21 points. As a team, the Panthers are shooting 40.6 from the field, 71.8 from the line, and 29.2 from three. Pitt sits at 100th in the net rankings, Joe. That makes this a quad 2 game for Syracuse. And just a side note here, since Jeff Capel has become coach of the Panthers, he is 0-4 against Boeheim. And what a better time to prove yourself than at home in the second meeting of the year against Syracuse. So,
yeah, again, we talked about the rest of the games. Really, none of them are going to be easy. I think one thing that sets these guys aside is, again, their rivals. We've seen them already once, and they're on a 4-game losing streak, which usually doesn't really bode too well, right? Because eventually that's going to get broken or get snapped, right? The one thing that I do remember from this game that definitely made me – well, I mean, I was happy about it when we played against them, but now it's getting me a little bit weary is Justin Champagne, if that's how you say it.
Champagne, I say.
Champagne, yeah. He was in foul trouble, and – in our first meeting, they were right there with us, maybe even possibly leading. He gets in foul trouble. We take the lead. We have a decent lead. He comes back in the second half, and he actually was the reason they kind of got a little bit closer into the game. They're still going to have their big men with Terrell Brown, but really down low, Champagne. He's the one that got us, and he's actually been getting better throughout the season. So that's one guy that we're going to have to worry about as far as in the middle of the zone, almost like where Moses Wright was. I'd probably look to him to maybe duplicate exactly what he just did to us. And again, they have their set of guards with Xavier Johnson and Trey McGowan's and Audie's Tony, who they're gonna bring the defense. They're gonna be right there in your pocket, just waiting. I remember the first time we played against them, it felt like Xavier Johnson could have got called for 12 fouls. I don't even think he fouled out. But again, that's how they play. They play tough, and they're home, so they're going to be in the zoo, and you know that it's going to be loud in there, and the fans are going to show up. They always do for this matchup. So again,
well, they don't always, but this year they haven't been terrible. But
right,
it used to be a whole lot more hostile than it's been.
Well, yes, that's true. It's been a little while since.
But it can be that place can be just as bad because the way it's designed for the students that line the floor can be just as bad as Cameron. I mean, it's just as close. Yeah.
I mean, I know it's been a long time since Jamie Dixon, but again, there's been some things going on, but this team isn't awful. This team could definitely be able to beat us. But again, we've been successful against teams that have limitations when it comes to offense, because we have limitations to our defense. So that's really the only way that really it kind of cancels out. And you saw that with Georgia Tech. They're not a great 3-point shooting team, and Pittsburgh is kind of right there in the same boat. They're not a great
Right.
3-point shooting team. Xavier Johnson can hit some that like straight on.
Ryan Murphy
can hit some, and I know Trey McGowan's every once in a while he can get a little hot, but again, they're not gonna. They usually don't kill it from there, and I would expect us to kind of. I would treat it probably defensively just like this Georgia Tech game.
Yeah, it's almost
The last one
it's really similar, right? I mean, really.
Yeah. Those are very, very like similar teams. When you look at like James Banks and Terrell Brown and their size and the guards, and they're very similar teams, and we know how to beat them. We know what we have to do. It's just, are they going to be able to do it on the road in that type of environment?
Well, I mean, Syracuse has been pretty good on the road this year. They did move up a little bit in the rebound percentage. I mean, but they got out rebounded by, or no, we
won.
We won the rebounds by, no, we lost by 2.
Oh, against Pittsburgh the first time.
No, against Georgia Tech.
No, I thought we won by 1.
Now I got Georgia Tech with 28 and Syracuse with 26, according to ESPN. But the last game, though, we did beat them by 6, 39-33 against Pitt. So,
yeah.
And, going back to the last game, it's always fun to look and see. Girard was not good. Buddy Boeheim was pretty good. He had the game high with 21 points. Hughes only had 10 points. Mark Dolezaj, who's 7 rebounds and 17 points, so he played good. And yet, we still won. So really all you had was Buddy Boeheim and Mark Dolezaj. So, I mean, Buddy's struggled lately, and look for him to come out. Mark's going to ride his high from the Georgia Tech game into there. They've been decent on the road this year. This team's struggling. That does worry me. I feel like that's always a bad omen, especially this year. It seemed to really, I'm sold on it this year. So, they're going to want to prove something. They've only got 3 games left, Syracuse being one of them. So.
Yeah. And I mean, again, you're talking about a team that a little while ago was in the same situation that we were when we played against them. And again, I just don't, it's never, when you play against a rival, it's never just that easy, right? And they're going to want to get the revenge, especially when you play a team twice too. And sometimes it doesn't have to be a rival. When you're an athlete and you're in a season and you've already played a team and you lose, then you're kind of chomping at the bit to get back in there. So again, it's what kind of team are we going to see from Pittsburgh after coming from a 4-game losing streak, and probably, them being in a situation where they're not looking like they're going to make the tournament. And I mean, how are they going to come back from that, and how are they going to play? We kind of looked that same way the first half against Georgia Tech, and then we came out and we scored 52 points in the second half. So I think we know where we stand as far as our guys are all in, and they're going to keep playing. But to go against, again, the one thing that I wanted to say, I'm going to bring it up because you brought up bringing back the old games and looking at the old box score. Champagne or whatever the hell.
Yeah, who knows? We names come here to die, so who cares?
So I'm just going to Champagne. I'm just going to call him Champagne, okay?
Champagne.
Justin Champagne was in foul trouble. Only played 26 minutes, and he led the team in points and rebounds at 14 and 9.
That's crazy. And he only had 3 fouls too, so yeah.
Yeah, he had 3 early ones.
Right.
And but yeah, he came in and did some damage late in the second half, and again, that's the guy.
He became ineffective because of his fouls. Really.
They have guards. Yeah, they have guards that are going to play defense and tough defense and make some tough shots every once in a while. They're going to play hard. The effort's going to be there. But that's the guy that we have to stop. Or like Moses Wright, not stop and just let him be the only person that does anything. But either way.
It's a tough trade-off. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough trade-off. Stop everything except for that thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not going to be able to stop it anyway. And that's really, I think, where we were at with that whole Moses Wright thing, was that kind of just let him go against Sidibe.
They focused on Alvarado, and they did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Alvarado is a dynamic player, and they shut him down, and he's talented as hell. I mean, he's really good. So that team's totally different with him in the game. Totally different.
Oh yeah, well we knew it was going to be different with him in the game, and then obviously we beat him 34 points the first time we played him. That wasn't going to be that. We knew that,
Right?
But,
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, man, it's one of those things. Like again, it depends on where you are, what side of the spectrum. Again, we talked to James about it. He's on this kind of the side of that we need to win the whole thing to get in. And based upon what we've talked about in the last podcast, and I kind of where I'm at is we win these next 4. It's hard to ignore 19 and 12.
Yeah, but
as far as bubble talk, I do understand James's his argument with the fact that it's not great competition, but
it's the win. It's a season without a signature win if we don't do something in the ACC tournament. So
yeah,
I'm more with James than I am with. I just because I guess, and I'm not trying to be negative, but I'm just being realistic. Just judging by what I've seen so far this year, I just feel like it's more probable that we don't get that win. Now, I'm not saying we can't, but I think it's probable that we don't. And they're going to have to ride this out by winning the games that they should. We talked about with James, UNC worries me. UNC is not going to be an easy game. Pitt's not going to be an easy game. I mean, at Miami might not even be an easy game. Who knows? They're going to be hungry
even
too.
Miami and Boston College. I thought those 2 teams were one of the worst teams down there as far as – well, right. I mean, I get it. Yes, they are. But meanwhile, Boston College got 7 wins. Just a little while ago, Boston College was 7-8. Miami was right there too. I mean, they're 6-11. I mean, I know they're at the bottom, but I thought that they were bottom. Like I didn't know that they were kind of right around where we are. I mean, Boston College is only one win away from us in the ACC standing. So, yeah, I'm still open to the belief that. I mean, obviously, I'm not looking at what's probable. I'm looking at the possibilities. I still think that there's a situation where we win all our regular seasons, and maybe we don't have to win the ACC. And granted, probably have to make the title game, but anything that can keep us from, maybe allowing us that one loss in the ACC title game or something and still get in, I'm still kind of up in hopes for, because any loss in the regular season from here on out is definitely going to
It's a dagger. That's a dagger.
Yeah,
you would have to win.
A dagger.
You would have to win.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know if I can trust 3 or 4 straight days of us having to out-rebound teams, play tough defense. And, I'd hate to go back to the whole Boeheim tired thing, but, when you have a couple of days in between games, different story. When you're playing 3 days in a row.
Yeah.
Now you're talking, you want
that bye. You got to have that bye. It's going to be a huge help if we get it. So.
Yeah.
100%. All right. Well, that is going to do it for us. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry we were a day late. Joe's grounded now. So he's not grounded like your parent would do, but he's grounded.
My dad?
He's in Wake Forest.
I'll stay in my room.
He's in Wake Forest. He's here to stay. So we should be on schedule from here on out. So I want to thank all of you for listening. Go give James a follow on Twitter if you haven't.
Yep.
Hit him up. It always helps. His rundowns of the ACC rankings. I think he does a fair and legit job of going through those. So check it out, share it if you will. I'll throw it up on the socials. Why the hell not? So we want to thank all of you participating in fan feedback. I want to thank my bookie, obviously. Obviously, I got to thank James on guitar, because what would it be without that? And that's it. So we will see you next time. For Joe, I'm Sean. We're out.
Thanks for listening to the Cuse Militia Podcast, the fan's voice with Sean and Joe.